This is what a lot of us have been waiting for. The former Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn, and the brilliant young former Labour MP, Zara Sultana, they've got together and they're launching this new political party. What's it dedicated to? Things like taxing the booming rich so we can invest in our collapsing services and infrastructure, bringing our utilities, our public services into public ownership so they're not cash cows for profiteers, solving the housing crisis rather than, I don't know, lining the pockets of property developers, not punishing young people with debt because they dared to dream of a university education that all of us in society benefit from, securing workers and trade unions the rights they need, they deserve, a welfare state that offers security rather than poverty, tackling the climate emergency to both protect our species, which I think would be ideal, really, but also create decent jobs and improve living standards, and, pretty importantly, a foreign policy based on peace and justice rather than, say, arming a genocide. Now, millions of people support these sorts of policies. Amongst the general population, they're mainstream. But the political elite, the Tories, Labour, Reform, they've conspired to shut those millions of people out of politics, to smear them as dangerous extremists for believing in what actually should just be common sense. And that's because it means challenging the power and wealth of the sort of people that this cartel exists to represent and champion. Now, yesterday, Corbyn and Sultana announced a new party will be founded. It doesn't have a name yet. It's got Your Party as a holding title, which is what a lot of the media became predictably obsessed with because political reporting in Britain is about trivialities and personalities and soap opera. By 10 a.m. on Friday morning, 200,000 people had signed up already. I guess that's what, 250,000 plus now. We've included the link for this initiative in the video description. Make sure you click on it, sign up and support it. I'll be fascinated to see how it evolves, about the policies it stands on, what it campaigns on, how it communicates, because the left really needs to play catch up with the right-wing extremists, who I'm afraid to say have an often brilliant online strategy, and that's radicalising new recruits for their hateful cause. Crucially, I want to see how it develops its relationship with the Green Party. The brilliant Zach Polanski's standing to be leader of the Greens on a very similar sort of platform. As well as winning 4 seats at the last election, the Greens came second in 39 seats held by the Labour Party, including this very constituency I live in. There's also the independent candidates. I know 4 anti-genocide independent MPs are supporting this new initiative. I want to see what the likes of Liam Mohammed do. She's the prodigious young British Palestinian politician who came so close to defeating the hardcore Blairite Health Secretary Wes Streeting at the last election. We just can't end up with left-wing candidates standing against each other at the next election. It'd be a total disaster. That would mean Labour Reform get in, and it would also just put people off. Last night, I went on LBC to discuss this new party, and here's what I said.
Let's bring into the conversation Owen Jones, who's columnist with The Guardian. Owen, good to have you on. Thank you for joining us. Focusing on the Jeremy Corbyn party, first of all, I mean, how much of a threat do you think this is to Keir Starmer and the Labour government?
Well, I think it's a big threat. They're slightly less popular than cholera at the moment. I mean, look, they only won 1/3 of the vote on the lowest turnout in British democratic history last time. They actually won less votes than Jeremy Corbyn did in 2019, and that was seen as a shellacking. Obviously, I know how our electoral system works, but largely because Reform split the right of centre vote, that's why they won 1/3 of the vote and 2/3 of the seats. But the point is this: look, they came to power. They didn't have a vision for the country. They went for elderly people with a winter fuel payment. They went for disabled people. They threatened to drive hundreds of thousands into poverty. That blew up, and I think that's pretty instructive because their big USP were the grown-ups in the room. We're really competent, and actually they've been a shambolic mess. And as well as that, you know, not addressing the longest squeeze in wages since the Battle of Waterloo, would you believe, in this country. I mean, we've had 2 lost generations pretty much of living standards. They're arming a genocide. Gaza has been drowned in blood, including with British arms. We still provide the key components for F-35 jets, which are shredding the bodies of little children. Gaza, as we can all see, is being starved to death deliberately by our ally. And I think the point is we need a different economic system at home, which is about taking on the wealthy interests who are booming like never before, redistributing that wealth, investing in public services, taking utilities into public ownership. I mean, just on that, I mean, privatisation, I think most people never really bought into, but unless you like swimming in excrement, I think people can see making utilities and services cash cows for profiteers has not worked very well. So it's about an alternative: public ownership, workers' rights, redistributing wealth and power, investing in public services, the climate emergency, and not committing genocide. I think these are things that actually millions of people support, which is why I think a lot of people who voted for Labour, hoping they'd get some substantial change, are frankly pretty angry and looking elsewhere at the moment.
You do accept, though, that it gives Nigel Farage a much better chance of becoming Prime Minister?
Nigel Farage is on course to be Prime Minister because his government's failed. I mean, look, they're way ahead in the opinion polls at the moment with no Jeremy Corbyn, this party, the name they're going to come up with, as they get people to sign up, tens of thousands. I just signed up before I came on air. So,
any name suggestions?
I'm not really a name party sort of guy, as long as it's not called Wibble or something.
Fine.
The People's Party, who knows? But, hopefully that'll be decided democratically. I think doing things behind closed doors, I think people don't really like that kind of stuff. No, but I think...
back to Nigel Farage, yeah.
Yeah, Nigel Farage is on course to win because people had Tory rule and they thought it was a disaster. People were left worse off than they were when the Tories came to power. They thought, well, let's give Labour a go. They gave Labour a go, and it's an absolute catastrophe. I think, look, people are disillusioned and angry because the system doesn't work. If you've got an economic system that doesn't mean rising living standards, that doesn't mean public services get better, that your next generation will be worse off than you, that you have good, decent, affordable housing, then people get angry and they look for answers. And at the moment, the person monopolising here's the alternative to the broken systems, Nigel Farage. We need other voices in the room who can say, actually, you should be angry at the system, but don't blame migrants and refugees. Blame the bosses who aren't paying you properly. Blame the profiteers who have run down our services. Blame the bankers who plunge us into a disaster. Let's tax them properly, invest in public services, bring our utilities into public ownership, and stop arming child killers. I don't think actually it's that unreasonable. It's not extreme, is it?
Can I ask you about at the moment, Morgan McSweeney gets a lot of headlines, Prime Minister's close advisor, various sort of musings about him wanting to tackle reform issues, crime, small boats, not that they are reform issues, but certainly how he sort of sees it. This new party, do you think it could bring Labour further to the left, further to perhaps the sort of Labour Party that Keir Starmer ran on when he ran for leader?
Well, I mean, it's about, most people don't think it's sort of left or right. Keir Starmer ran on a false prospectus, abolishing tuition fees, public ownership, taxing the rich. And it was a lie. Morgan McSweeney is the real Prime Minister, by the way, ran that deceitful leadership campaign. Look, I supported We Deserve Better, which at the last election raised money for the Labour Party and the Green Party and independent candidates. Sorry, left-wing Labour candidates. It backed the Green Party candidates. Let me do that again. The We Deserve Better thing, which I supported, raised money for left-wing candidates who are either Green Party candidates or independent candidates. And that's what needs to happen. There needs to be a coalition.
Right.
And I think what will happen now is to put pressure on Labour and offer an alternative. This new party needs to do a pact with the Green Party and independent candidates so it's not splitting the votes. We don't want to go People's Front of Judea People's Front. And I think actually because otherwise Labour will be laughing. I mean, if you've got a Green Party candidate standing against this new party candidate and then Labour just wins, well, what's the point in that? So obviously what they need to do is get their act together, form a pact. We Deserve Better, I know, will be raising money to support different candidates on a non-sectarian basis. I'm a floating voter now. I quit the Labour Party and I'll vote for whatever candidate locally has the best chance of winning on that sort of programme. So I think that's what will happen, because otherwise Labour won't feel the heat or the pressure. Reform could end up winning for the reasons you actually set out. So let's have a pact. Let's get the Greens and this new party to work together. And if they work together on the things they agree on, public ownership, taxing the rich, investment. I mean, they agree on most things. Yeah. But not having a genocide. I think that would I think Labour would be worried then, and they should be worried if that happens.
On Jeremy Corbyn, I mean, clearly people love him, people hate him. There's not many people in the middle. But I mean, are you quite surprised that he wants to go back into this? Because sort of from afar, he looked thoroughly miserable when he was Labour leader. And the idea of him sort of plunging himself back into frontline politics again, i.e. leading a political party, I was quite surprised. I don't know how you felt.
Well, to be honest, given he's been portrayed as the devil incarnate and the coming of Satan by austere, respectable media for so long, he's taken the punches pretty well. And I think, I mean, look, he was in exile, political exile for decades, fighting for policies and issues which actually got vindicated. He was there in the 80s opposing apartheid when the government were calling the ANC terrorists. He opposed the Iraq War, tragically vindicated on that one. Austerity, lone voice. On the Labour benches when it was all austerity light and dead balls, that got vindicated. I think, look, he made a lot of big calls that got ridiculed and then got vindicated. And I think, actually, look, I know actually, given the amount he's got thrown at him, there are people who have bad words to say about him. But I think most people actually think deep down, a lot of people, he's a principled guy. He says what he means what he says. You might disagree with him on this or that, but it comes from the heart, his conviction. And he's not doing it to advance his career or his reputation. He's doing it because he cares about things. And I'd like more politicians like that. I might not agree or disagree. I might agree or disagree with them on this or that. But actually, I think having people who are rooted in their communities, he loves Islington North. He stood when he got kicked out, and he won a massive, resounding victory there, which is very rare, by the way. Independent people who stand as an independent candidate and then win afterwards doesn't normally happen, even if they represent that constituency for a long time. So you've got to look at that. His local voters love him for a reason, and actually got vindicated on a lot of the big issues. Am I surprised that he wants to go and be a punch bag for many of my colleagues in the British media? I wouldn't do it myself, but I think that shows he's pretty tough. Actually, to be honest, he's gone through a lot, and I wish him well.
Okay, thank you, Owen. Appreciate your time.
Now, I want to be clear, guys. I'm really excited about this. We can't go on. We can't go on like this. We just can't. Our economic system is broken beyond any repair. Millions of people are condemned to hardship and insecurity. Not just those who've been driven into poverty, but a lot of people who traditionally would have thought of themselves as being somewhere around the middle. And while there used to be a promise that each generation would be better off than their parents, that's long been smashed into the dust. And yet there's more wealth sloshing around at the top than ever. And that wealth is created not by hedge fund managers sitting on their arses, but because of the graft of millions of workers using their brains or their hands or both. It's my firm conviction that complicity in genocide has destroyed the legitimacy of our elites altogether. You just can't help facilitate a genocide and expect to retain your power and your influence. A reckoning is coming. If we don't get this right, though, the justifiable disillusionment, anger, fury in society will not go away. It'll just go in the wrong directions, and it'll be the likes of Farage who'll benefit. I'll be using this platform to discuss the exciting new developments in the coming weeks and months, so stay tuned for that. Please press like and subscribe. I would love to hear your thoughts, your comments. Do leave those behind the line. Help us take on the pro-genocide corporate media at patreon.com/OwenJones84. You make all of this possible. As you can see, we're a lot more high-tech and getting modernised and all the rest of it. That's all thanks to you. We're expanding our reach across every different platform. Listen to the podcast, just type in Owen Jones Podcast. And I will speak to you in a bit.